Okay, welcome back. Now we got to find out the rest of the story about Jericho. I hope you're excited, because I am. So, the Israelites were camped by the Jordan River, and Joshua knew that it was time to move. But before the people crossed the river, the Israelite leaders went through the camp giving instructions. When you see the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant of God, you are to follow it. The leaders called out, "That's how you will know the way to go." Then Joshua told the Israelites to get ready because God was going to do something amazing, as he normally does. Pretty much everything he does is amazing. He was going to make the river stop. How do you think God was planning on stopping a river? Well, the Ark of the Covenant was a special box that showed that God was with the Israelites. Joshua told the priests to carry the ark and walk ahead of the people. When you reach the Jordan, Joshua told the priests, go and stand in the water. Now the river was at flood stage. That means the water was flowing very, very, very high. I don't know, maybe if you've seen, maybe not necessarily a river, but a stream by your house. And when it rains really hard, the water rises in the stream. It's a lot bigger. Kind of like that, but a lot bigger and a lot more water. So it was flowing high and it was flowing fast. But when God says to move, it doesn't matter what things look like. So even though they had no idea how they would get across, the Israelites did just what God told them to do. All right, God's God. All right, He created that river. He can stop it if He wants. So the people took down their tents and packed their things. The priests carried the Ark of the Covenant to the edge of the fast, deep river, and the first two priests stepped in. So Joshua chapter 3, verse 15 through 16 says, the water of the Jordan was going over its banks. It always does that at the time the crops are being gathered. The priests came to the river. Their feet touched the water's edge. Right away, the water coming down the river stopped flowing. It piled up far away at a town called Adam, near Zarethan. The water flowing down to the Dead Sea was completely cut off. So the people went across the Jordan River opposite Jericho. Whoa. That's that's a stopped river. That's a stopped river right there. So, wow, the water in the river straight up just stopped flowing. It all piled up at a town up the river. The place where the priests were standing dried up. So the priests walked to the middle of the river and stood on dry ground. Then thousands and thousands of Israelites passed by the priests to stand on the other side. Once the very last Israelite had come across the riverbed, God gave Joshua another order. Choose 12 men, one from each tribe, God told him. Tell them to pick up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan River, right from the spot where the priests are standing. Have the men carry the stones to the place where you camp tonight. So Joshua did exactly what God told him to do, because God is awesome, and you want to do what he says because it's always going to be what's best for you. So why do you think he wanted them to pick up stones from the river? Someday, Joshua told them, your children will ask you what the stones mean. Tell them how God sent the ark ahead of you and stopped the Jordan River. So the 12 men went out to where the priests were standing. Each one of them picked up a huge, heavy stone, and the men lifted the stones onto their shoulders and carried them back to the crowd on the shore. Finally, it was time for the priests to come out of the river. Out of the dryness, where the river was. As soon as the priests set their feet on the riverbank, the deep, fast waters of the Jordan flowed quickly back to their place. That's crazy. Can you imagine being the people in the town where the water stopped? Be like, what's happening? That night, when the people stopped to camp, Joshua used the 12 stones to build a memorial so the Israelites would remember the great thing God had done. The Israelites' children and grandchildren would see the stones someday, and their parents would tell them how God brought them into the promised land. God wanted the stones to be a reminder to the Israelites, but he wanted people from other nations to see the stones as well. He wanted everyone on earth to know his power so that all people would love and respect him. So, just as crossing the Jordan seemed impossible for the Israelites, a big old river, right? There are sometimes things in our lives that seem, in the moment, impossible. But God loves us. all right? And he wants what's best for us. And he is ready to help us follow him. When we don't know how to solve our problems, God always does, and he will show you what to do. It is good for us to remember the things God does to help us and others. The Bible is full of stories that show us how God has helped people with his love and power. And people we know who have loved and followed God for a long time can also tell us stories. But about how God helped them. So we can do special things to remember how God has also helped us. Setting yourselves, a point in your life in which maybe you're not sure how to do something, and God gives you a vision or makes clear your path, right? Do something. Maybe write it down. Create something, a reminder to remind you of all the things God has done. And if you keep a reminder of some sort, right, write it down, make an object, take a stone each time God reminds you. And you keep them all throughout your lifetime, you will have a plethora of examples to call back to draw back to be like, wow, God helped me in this instance, in this instance, in this instance. And you can use those stories to tell other people, just like the Israelites, about God stopping the river, about how God helped you in times that seemed near impossible, but yet you made it on the other end. Better than before. All right. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I will see you next week.